we have an interesting post-COVID case discussion. This will be done from the Government General Hospital of Ernakulam. The case will be presented by Dr. Ardi Krishna. And to chair the session, we have Dr. G. Manoj, who is the HOD Internal Medicine at GH Ernakulam. As for Dr. G. Manoj, he did his MBBS from Government Medical College, Kottayam. Thereafter, he did his MD from Government Medical College, Bangalore. Now, may I request Dr. Manoj to kindly take over and conduct the next session, please.
Good evening, sir. Am I audible?
You are suddenly audible, Dr. Manoj. Yes, yeah. Audible.
So, greetings from General Hospital, Ernakulam. Respected seniors and colleagues. We started DNB course last year in medicine, surgery, and cardiology. This is our first clinical presentation in this forum. We all know we are passing through a very tough time with the COVID-19, and we have already passed through the first and second phase. I think we are in the third phase now due to the Delta variant. During the past 2 years, we have seen many presentations in the patients, both as COVID as well as non-COVID. Here we have got a very interesting post-COVID case. Our case was a 27-year-old housewife from North Paravur. She was absolutely normal, except for some low backache until she contracted COVID-19. And she survived the COVID-19 as a category A patient. What happened here after a month of COVID-19 infection? To present this interesting case, I invite our second year DNB PG, Dr. Ardi Krishna. Dr. Ardi, please present the case.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, sir. Good evening, one and all out there. I'm presenting a very interesting case on post-COVID case. So I'm starting the presentation. So my patient, Mrs. XYZ, aged 27 years from North Paravur. She is a homemaker. Informant is patient and information is reliable. Date of admission is 18/6/2021 and date of examination 21/6/2021. Presenting complaints: edema of both lower limbs 2 weeks back, pain both lower limbs 2 weeks, oral ulcers 1 week, rash on skin 1 week. History of present illness. So edema of both lower limbs, it started initially on both feet, which progressed above knee over 2 weeks. It was pitting in nature, more in the evening, decreased slightly in the morning. No facial puffiness or abdominal distension. Pain over both lower limbs. Pain more at ankles and knees. Bilateral ankle and knee involvement was there. Onset was symmetrical. Severity of pain was more after exertion, like walking. Later led to impairment of day-to-day activity. She also had sleep impairment due to pain. She was taken to a local hospital. She was given some medications. However, pain did not relieve with those medications. She had painful oral ulcers, which was on the inner aspect of lip and tongue. No associated bleeding, no ulcers in the groin. They started to subside with initiation of treatments. Skin rash. There were various types of skin lesion. Predominant was a bullous lesion on the skin involving both extensor and flexor aspects. It was initially seen over the lower limbs, later developed onto the upper limbs also. Face was spared. Bullae ruptured on its own, but no associated peeling of skin. There were reddish, lazy patterns on extensor aspect of upper and lower limbs. Bluish color of fingers and fingertips and tips of toes were noted. Fingers and toes became swollen. Pain of fingertips was also noted. Pain was more on exposure to cold water exposure or while walking on tile barefooted. There was no history of loose stools or vomiting, no history of associated fever, no history of dysuria, decreased urine output or frothing of urine, no history of jaundice, abdominal pain, abdominal distension, no history of cough, breathlessness, chest pain, palpitation, giddiness, No history of any weakness of upper or lower limb. No history of headache, decreased vision, tinnitus, numbness, or pins and needle sensations. Past history. History of COVID-19 infection in the month of May, that is on 12/5/21. She had only fever and rhinitis. Symptoms were only of 1 day duration. And she was in home quarantine. There was a history of recurrent back pain for past 3 years, for which she was evaluated and was found to have intervertebral disc prolapse. And she was on treatment on and off. No history of diabetes, hypertension, coronary artery disease, tuberculosis, asthma, recurrent infections, and so on. Family history. She is the eldest daughter born out of a non-consanguineous marriage. There is history of COVID-19 infection among all the family members. No history of coronary artery disease, diabetes, hypertension, tuberculosis, asthma. No history of any rheumatological disorders among family members. Personal history. Sleep was decreased, appetite normal, bowel habits normal, bladder habits normal. No addictions or deleterious habits. Menstrual history, menarche at 13 years of age, regular 28-day cycle, no oligomenorrhea or menorrhagia. Last menstrual period was 16/6/21. Marital history, she was married at the age of 19 years. She had a first abortion at 2 months gestation, followed by 2 live births at 21 and 23 years of age, full-term normal delivery. There were no complications. Socioeconomic status, she belonged to a lower middle class family. So to summarize, we had a 27-year-old female homemaker from a lower middle class family, post-COVID status with history of 1 abortion at 2 months, without other comorbidities, presented with bipedal edema, lower limb pain, oral ulcers, and bullous skin lesions with swollen fingers, and pain and discoloration of fingers and toe tips. Pain exacerbated on cold exposure. So we had a variety of DDs after our history, which included this can be an early presentation of a collagen vascular disease or a vasculitis following post COVID-19 infection, or we even suspected Behçet's disease as she had oral ulcers. Since she had bipedal edema, we also suspected possibility of nephrotic syndrome. On examination, she was moderately built and nourished, conscious and cooperative. The height 152 centimeter, weight 64 kg. No pallor. She had peripheral cyanosis, no central cyanosis, no clubbing, lymphadenopathy. Bilateral pitting pedal edema was present. Head to foot examination. Oral cavity examination showed 2 small aphthous ulcers. No thyroid or neck swellings. Stria rubra present on abdomen. No ulcers in the groin. Swollen fingers and hands with cyanosis at fingertips. Cyanosis of tip of toes also noted. Bullae on extensor and flexor aspect of upper and lower limb. Livedo reticularis on both lower limbs. Bipedal edema up to the level of knees. Hair is normal. So we have the picture of the lesions she presented. We can see the cyanosis, then the bullous lesions, and you can see a ruptured lesion. The ruptured lesion did not show any extensive peeling of the adjacent skin. Hands also, we can see the lesions on hands with fingers are swollen. Coming to the vitals, pulse rate 112 per minute, regular, normal volume and character, no radial or radiofemoral delay, peripheral pulses felt normally. BP 120/70 millimeters, right upper arm, sitting posture. Respiratory rate 18 per minute, thoracic abdominal. She was febrile. System examination, GIT, we had 2 small aphthous ulcers noted, measuring about 0.5 centimeters. It was tender ulcers. Except for the ulcers, rest of the GIT was within normal limits. Other system examinations was apparently within normal limits. So again, to summarize, after the examination, the 27-year-old female, homemaker female, post-COVID status, admitted with complaints of bipedal edema, joint pain, oral ulcers and skin rash, with history of single abortion and with no other non-comorbidities. An examination found to have aphthous ulcers, bullous lesions on upper and lower limbs, livido reticularis, bipedal pitching edema, then painful swollen fingers and toes with cyanosis. So the differential diagnosis were post-COVID vasculitis, collagen vascular disease, and Behçet's disease. Then we turned out to the investigations. These were the investigations. On the time of admission, a hemoglobin of 10.8 was there. Total count was 8,000. Polymorph 73, lymphocyte 19. I have highlighted all the abnormal values. She had mild elevation of OTPT. There was hypoalbuminemia. Then she had a very high levels of triglycerides. CRP was high. Urine PZ ratio was in the nephritic range. RA factor was negative. Urine albumin was trace. In the course of treatment, we noted that HP was falling trend, and on further evaluation, she was found to have a retic count of 7.5 and LDH of 587. D-dimer was 4.1, INR 1, APTT 32. A very high ferritin of more than 2000 was noted. Thyroid function was within normal limits. ECG showed normal sinus rhythm with low voltage complexes. Echo at the time of admission was good LV function with 1 centimeter pericardial effusion all around the heart. ANA was positive. She underwent ANA profiling, which showed a strong positive U1 RNP and a positive for SSA. Smith and all other antibodies were negative in the ANA profile. She also underwent C3 complement and C4 complement, which were within normal limits. Cardiolipin and lupus anticoagulant were negative. So we came up to the final diagnosis of post-COVID status patient with a mixed connective tissue disorder, having hypertriglyceridemia, hypoalbuminemia, transaminitis, and pericardial effusion. So the criteria we followed were the Alarcon-Segovia criteria. So according to the criteria, we need a high titer for anti-RNP, which was present for our patient. And she also had swollen fingers, Raynaud's phenomenon, synovitis, and myositis. Also, there is another criteria, which is Kahn's criteria, which is very much similar to Segovia criteria. And this was also fulfilled by our patient. Now we went on to treatment. We gave antibiotics, steroids, anticoagulants were also given in view of elevated D-dimer, and calcium channel blockers were initiated in view of Raynaud's phenomenon. All other supportive measures were given. Progress. She responded to initial line of treatment. CRP, triglyceridemia improved. Symptomatic improvement was also noted. Pericardial effusion subsided. Patient was then discharged and kept in follow-up. She was continued on steroids, hydroxychloroquine, and calcium channel blockers. She was reviewed on a weekly basis. There was resolution of skin lesions. However, Raynaud's phenomenon was persisting. So she is now continuing on hydroxychloroquine and calcium channel blockers. So this was a photograph which was taken when she came for a review 1 month back. So there was a resolution of most of the skin lesion. However, there is some swelling of the tip of fingers, and she had pain more when exposure to cold water. These were the lower limb lesions. Lower limb lesions were apparently reduced when compared to the previous lesions. And according to her, she had very much symptomatic relief, and she is continuing the treatment. Thank you. Hello, sir.
I think Radhakrishnan sir is not to be seen. That was an excellent presentation by Dr. Aarti. Sir is back, so we'll have something to say.
Thank you. It's a very good presentation. There is a chairperson, Dr. Manoj. He may have to add some points to the
Yeah.
presentation.
Here, the mixed connective tissue disorder itself is a rare disorder. Here, the thing is, it is precipitated by our COVID infection. I don't know how much common it is. My colleagues, how many of you have seen such cases here? I don't know. If anybody has got experience, please clarify.
Dr. Manoj, and
Yes.
your DNB training, I think it was an excellent presentation. And I like the images which she presented, where they were very clear and we could make
Thank
out
you,
all
madam.
the skin lesions. So it was a very good presentation. Now, COVID, I'm thinking is something like SLE, because we said SLE is the prototype of all diseases.
Yes.
COVID is showing many phases, so much so that we are so surprised. And post-COVID status also. Now, how would you say
Hello. Dr. Manoj, please.
Yeah.
It is all that how you could rule out SLE. I think you had the investigation based on a few.
Yeah, here
Yes,
what
yeah,
happens
yeah,
is we have got features of 3 connective tissue disorders in this case. There is SLE, polymyositis, and systemic sclerosis. That's why it is called a mixed connective tissue disorder. The classic feature is raised RNP antibodies.
But these bullous lesions are unusual, aren't they? In connective
Yeah,
tissue
that's the
disorders.
only unusual picture in this case.
Yeah, it's
That
quite
could be due to
unusual.
vasculitis.
And how do you explain the bilateral pitting edema? Is it because of some hyperproteinemia?
Possible. Even polymyositis can produce edema.
Okay, and there's only very small pericardial effusion, but there is no pleural effusion or ascites, because we generally expect a polyserositis, where we expect some pleural effusion, we expect some ascites.
That's not there in this case.
It wasn't there. Okay.
Not.
Fine. Thank you, Arun. You presented very well. It was quite educative in this case. And I know there must be a lot of tough moments to reach a diagnosis, because mixed connective tissue disorder is not an easy, I mean, we don't commonly see such cases. And anyway, congratulations to the GH team for bringing out this case. Yeah, we had to wait and see how many cases are related to post-COVID situation. We don't know, and there's not enough literature as far as I'm aware.
Literature says any viral infection can precipitate a mixed connective tissue disorder.
Okay.
Dr. Manoj?
Yes, sir.
Manoj, have you done a skin biopsy on this patient?
No.
No, sir. Actually, we suggested a skin biopsy, but due to some personal reasons, she was not willing. She is now kept in follow-up. However, I don't think she may be willing for the same again.
Is she still on steroids?
No, sir. Steroids,
Yes, sir.
no, sir. Steroids are tapered and stopped. Now she's continuing on HCQ, hydroxychloroquine, and
Okay.
Yeah, that's surprising, because far too less number of drugs to control mixed connective tissue. We should have expected some cytotoxic drugs, at least a cyclosporin or methotrexate, or azathioprine for these sort of cases, or maybe monoclonal antibodies. But anyway, I think one has to keep her under follow-up. She is likely to have some exacerbations, and maybe we may. It's a good consider a skin biopsy, because a tissue diagnosis will always help. In ironing out any further DDs. Thank you, Dr. Abraham, for bringing out this point. Now, any further points? Any further discussions from any of the participants? Any further comments?
Dr. Anisha,
Yes,
silastazole will be whether it will be helpful in this case in reducing Raynaud's phenomenon? Manoj, sir?
I didn't get it.
Silastazole, will it be helpful in reducing the Raynaud's
I'm not
phenomenon?
sure.
Raynaud's phenomenon is
It's
still
Raynaud's
present as
phenomenon. I'm not sure.
but traditionally we use CSCBs only for Raynaud's. I'm also not aware about silastazole, because silastazole is exclusively kept for PODs, peripheral arterial occlusive diseases, by and large. The established drug is COCD. Yeah. Any more point? Gita madam, anything from your side?
Yeah, in between I disappeared.
Okay, no, it's okay, it's okay, it's fine. All
I
right.
just wanted to
Thank you,
know
madam.
why
Thank you.
we think it is multi-system inflammatory syndrome. She's about 28 years old,
Yeah, that's right. She's just about 27.
27. So
That's
we
right.
have multi-system inflammatory syndrome in adults. Is it possible that this vasculitis is presenting as such?
Yeah, possible. It's possible actually. There are too many areas where we are a little uncertain. That's what I said. A tissue diagnosis would have been appropriate in this case, if we could have managed. It's possible. We could have an MSI.
Because post-COVID, I think they could have done an antibody. Dr. Manoj, have you done an
Yeah.
antibody?
No, madam, we're not that.
This multi-system inflammatory syndrome, if the patient has no pulmonary involvement, it's just a cause. Like we don't know anything about COVID. That is the truth.
Yeah.
The multi-system presentation,
Ultimately, we have to wait and watch.
we have to wait and watch.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much, Gita ma'am, for your valued input.